Once again, good morning to our friends in Germany and a very good afternoon to everyone joining us in Singapore. A very warm welcome to the Germany-Singapore Business Forum Connect. My name is Valerie, I'm from Enterprise Singapore, and I am your host for today's event. We have lined up an exciting program today with the theme of Pathways and Partnerships for Supply Chain Resilience. Before we begin, I'd like to bring your attention to housekeeping matters. Should you encounter any technical difficulties during this event, please refresh your browser. If this still does not work, please chat with our GSBF technical support staff via the Attendees tab, or you can email us at gsbfconnect@enterprisesg.gov.sg. I'm very pleased to introduce our first two speakers, Mr. Peter Ong, Chairman of Enterprise Singapore, and Professor Axel Stepken, Chairman of the Board of Management at Tufsud AG. They are our GSBF Connect co-chairs who will open our session today. Chairman, please.
Professor Axel Stepken, my fellow GSBF Connect co-chair, distinguished speakers and guests. Welcome to the first GSBF Connect of the year. GSBF Connect is a key platform for German and Singapore companies to collaborate on new market opportunities and to address common challenges together. Last year, Enterprise Singapore and the Asia Pacific Committee of German Business, or APA, jointly organized 4 GSBF Connects. These have been successful, with Singapore companies proceeding with different collaborations with their German counterparts. As countries open up post-pandemic, we see companies resuming more of their operations. However, the ongoing geopolitical conflict in Europe has spotlighted the issue of supply chain resilience. In this context, Southeast Asia is strategically relevant to our friends in Germany and the larger European Union. ASEAN is the EU's third largest trading partner. Analysts have projected a 22% increase in trade between ASEAN and the EU from 2019 to 2023. ASEAN's location also offers connectivity to global markets, and its increasingly skilled talent contributes to sustainable growth. Here in Singapore, we have strong trade, logistics, and infrastructure connections to ASEAN. Our companies also have regional footprint and good business knowledge of the region. German companies could therefore tap Singapore's trade and logistics infrastructure to enhance their supply chains in the region. Firstly, German manufacturers can expect globally competitive offerings from Singapore partners. Singapore manufacturers are one of the most productive in the world and are leading in precision engineering, food manufacturing, and medical technology. The Singapore government recently launched the Manufacturing 2030 initiative, with the aim of increasing manufacturing value add by 50%. Through Manufacturing 2030, we will sharpen the competitiveness of Singapore manufacturers and grow highly innovative companies that can deliver distinctive products and services to global customers. When German manufacturers come to Singapore, they can also expand into the greater Southeast Asia manufacturing ecosystem, which is brimming with business opportunities. The Southeast Asia Manufacturing Alliance, or SMA, serves this purpose by bringing together the complementary advantages of Singapore and different regional locations through a network of industrial parks. Strategic partners of the SMA include CapitaLand, Sembcorp Development, and Gallant Venture. Collectively, these private sector partners operate over 10 industrial parks across Malaysia, Vietnam, and Indonesia. Second, Singapore companies are also keen to partner German manufacturers to source for and bring in innovative solutions. We are seeing encouraging collaborations in this area. For example, the Eureka Clusters Call in 2020 led to an R&D project between DSIM Lab, an A-Star spin-off that provides optimization software solutions, and 5 other German entities. including Robert Bosch. In May 2021, Singapore became an associate country of the Eureka Network, opening up even more opportunities for such Singapore-German innovation partnerships. Thirdly, Singapore can serve as a base for German businesses to organize your supply chains and to grow your regional presence. German companies can benefit from our extensive network of 27 free trade agreements and enjoy both tariff savings and strong intellectual property and investment protection. Under our Trade 2030 initiative, Singapore aims to grow our export value from US $580 billion to at least US $720 billion, and double our offshore trade value from US $1 trillion to US $2 trillion by 2030. This will not only increase trading activity, but also create many opportunities in growth areas such as sustainability and decarbonization. We therefore welcome more German companies to leverage Singapore's strong trading ecosystem and connections to tap into growing markets in the region. On a final note, we look forward to hosting the Asia-Pacific Conference of German Business, or APK, which will take place from 13 to 14 November in Singapore. This is recognized as the most important German business and networking event in the Asia-Pacific. Like our GSBF Connect, this APK event will be another platform to strengthen the growing German-Singapore ties. For today, I wish everyone a fruitful session ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ong. Next up, we would like to invite Professor Stepken to deliver his opening address.
Dear Mr. Ong, dear speakers, dear participants, let me welcome you on behalf of the Asia-Pacific Committee of German Business, the APA, to this first edition of the GSBF Connect in 2022 on a very important and urgent topic. My first thanks go to our speakers and panelists. Thank you for taking your time today. Let me also thank our trusted partner, Enterprise Singapore, and everyone involved for making this event possible. All of us know how important functioning international supply chains are. They are the lifelines of the global economy. The multiple crises of the last few years have once again made this very clear to us. The terrible war in Ukraine also revealed that even the basic structures and cooperation mechanisms of the international order are not for granted. That's why reliable long-term partners are so important. And that's why, in our view, Singapore and the entire ASEAN region should play an even more prominent role in the future. We need new and adapted strategies to ensure the stable flow of goods, raw materials, and preliminary products. This is the prerequisite for being able to use the manifold advantages of the International Division of Labor. Fortunately, cutting-edge technology can help us here. Advanced manufacturing, as well as new developments in the logistics sector, can contribute to more robust supply chains. In addition, we can make use of Singapore's favorable geographic location and the economic strength of the ASEAN countries to put our supply chain activities on a broader and more resilient basis. I'm sure that this edition of the GSBF Connect, with 2 industry-specific breakout sessions, will show us new approaches and open up new perspectives in this regard. It is clear that all new sustainable solutions can only be developed and implemented together. I would also like to draw your kind attention to an upcoming special event. The APA, the Asia-Pacific Committee of German Business, together with the German Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action, and with the friendly support of the Singaporean government, will hold the 17th Asia-Pacific Conference of German Business, the APK, on November 13th and 14th in Singapore. In this conference too, the question of how we can increase the resilience of supply chains and what role Singapore and the ASEAN region can play in this endeavor will be a central topic. We also intend to hold the second edition of the GSBF Connect of this year within this framework. I'm sure that the APK 2022 will be another building block in deepening the German-Singaporean economic relations. I wish all of you a very insightful event today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ong and Professor Stepken, for helping us to set the context for our next segment. It is now my pleasure to invite Mr. Chua Wei Chien, Vice President and Head of Supply Chain and Connectivity from the Economic Development Board, to share with us on how leading companies are redefining and reimagining supply chains and how Singapore and Southeast Asia can play a part in companies' transformation. Wei Chien, please.
Hi, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me here at this event. My name is Wei Chien and I'm from the Singapore Economic Development Board. This event is aptly titled Pathways and Partnerships for Supply Chain Resilience. And I hope you can gain some ideas from my sharing on how you can use Singapore and Southeast Asia to build more resilience for your companies. But before we deep dive into solutioning and ideas, I think the fundamental question we have to answer is why is there a need to rethink and redefine supply chains? This slide is going to look pretty bleak, but it shows a series of unforeseen events that have happened to us over the past 2 to 3 years. We had the start of the US-China trade war, the exit of the UK from the EU, and then we got hit by the pandemic that's still causing many challenges for some countries. We also had a number of other localized crises that have triggered disruptions elsewhere. And we may be forgiven for feeling a sense of deja vu when we look at some of the headlines today. It feels like we have gone one full circle with port lockdowns. It was a Yantian port and then the Ningbo port almost a year ago that had lockdowns. But today, we still remain susceptible to such lockdowns of cities and ports in key manufacturing hubs. Supply chain professionals are no longer able to hope for these disruptions to go away, but instead are having to dig deep to prepare for the next Black Swan event. And when you look at Gartner's poll of a number of senior executives and risk management leaders over the last 4 quarters, supply chain disruptions were identified by executives as one of the top risks for their businesses. Some new risks, such as inflation, may have surfaced, but supply chain disruptions remain a common feature and a mainstay on top of leaders' minds today. And these disruptions are affecting companies' operations and having an impact on financial performance. This has in turn made the art of supply chain management an important one for many companies. One supply chain leader have described his or her role being elevated from back room or back office to boardroom. And this is with good reason, because if you can't manage your supply chain well today, it is going to be difficult to please your customers. It is going to be difficult to sustain profits. So how are companies adjusting their supply chains for more resilience? Here, I list 6 strategies identified by Gartner and thought of by companies. It's not exhaustive. The first one is an easy one for many companies, which is to get your inventory strategy right. And in order to create more resilience, many have resorted to increasing inventory buffer to increase the finished goods inventory that you have in your key distribution hubs to avoid stockout situation. The others that were thought about include diversification of manufacturing networks, multi-sourcing, and nearshoring in order to mitigate risk. But what we have observed is that many companies who have planned for this have been struggling to execute on these plans. Perhaps these are strategies that take a longer time frame to execute and are not so easy to do so. That said, we still think that these are viable strategies for companies. And some of these strategies, in our view, can be executed through Singapore and through Southeast Asia. So firstly, I think we have to examine how companies are using Singapore. If I were to look back at the past 12 to 24 months, I would say Singapore has done relatively well in ensuring that we played the role of a dependable hub. When other locations didn't work, hopefully Singapore worked. It is not without our own challenges, but we have managed to keep manufacturing activities running. Logistics facilities continue to move goods. At the onset of the COVID pandemic, we had to restore our air cargo connectivity when aircraft were grounded. We had to restore that with creating more freighter routes with new airlines. We also resisted imposing export bans of essentials to ensure that the trust that we had with companies was not broken. And even when we had our own lockdown sometime in second quarter 2020, we made sure that businesses, particularly manufacturing and logistics activities, could continue. Ports operated 24/7, RDCs continued to shift goods in and out of Singapore. And that made us a dependable manufacturing and logistics hub. That dependability and reliability have resulted in continued interest from companies to set up manufacturing activities in Singapore. And I've just highlighted two here as examples. And in addition, as part of companies' strategies to diversify and to multi-source, they have set up sourcing hubs in Singapore to tap on the region. VF Corporation and Samsonite are just two examples of companies who have expanded into Singapore for this purpose. And as we see a wave of such interest from companies in establishing their supply chain hubs in Singapore, we have also begun the work of ensuring that we have the right talent for companies to manage their supply chains in the region. We are currently studying the needs of companies in supply chain management talent, and the study that will be concluded by third quarter this year will advise us on what we need to do, what we need to work with industry on to ensure that companies have the right talent in place. And beyond talent, I think one of the key things that we are also observing is that you will need to tap on technology as a key enabler for building supply chain resilience. Many companies have expressed interest in deploying technology to deploy technology and new solutions to gain visibility of their supply chains, to make better decisions. And we have since worked with a number of research partners and others to develop an ecosystem for companies to drive their transformation efforts and to adopt new technologies. This includes a showcase of supply chain control tower solutions at the ARTC and various platforms such as those that have been established by Enterprise Singapore for companies to try new solutions with startups that are applying in this space. Beyond our shores, Southeast Asia is going to play an important role in many companies' diversification strategies. Beyond the growing consumption power of Southeast Asia, it must be noted that Southeast Asia is a growing production base, with the third largest labor force in the region globally, and one that has a competitive cost structure and abundance of resources. Southeast Asia, with our network of free trade agreements, can be a viable location for companies' manufacturing and sourcing efforts. I would like to zoom into one particular region, our neighboring region, Johor in Malaysia, Batam, Bintan, Karimun in Indonesia, as we believe that our neighboring region can be a good complement to what we have in Singapore. These locations are located near Singapore and can tap on our connectivity. So we are promoting manufacturing activities that may not be so suitable for Singapore to be sited in these locations. To facilitate companies' interest in the region, as Chairman has earlier pointed out, EDB and AESG has established the Southeast Asia Manufacturing Alliance. And what this partnership aims to do is to help you grow your manufacturing footprint in Southeast Asia. And our partners are there to help you smoothen your entry, to offer benefits and services that can help you tap on the region. With that, I've come to the end of my presentation. And I'm sure most executives here are already assessing your supply chain risk, given that disruptions aren't going to disappear. But there is also a need to ascertain how you can mitigate the risk by applying a combination of the strategies I've mentioned. One has to think about diversification, multi-sourcing, to develop resilience as well as to overcome future challenges. And in that line of thinking, I hope that you do consider Singapore and Southeast Asia as you rethink your manufacturing footprint and redesign your distribution network. I hope this has been a useful opening to these discussions, and I wish everyone a productive session ahead. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Wei Chen, for the very insightful presentation. To our friends in the audience, if you wish to connect with Wei Chen after this event, you may write to us at GSBF Connect at enterprisesg.gov.sg. Now we are delighted to invite a distinguished panel of speakers to shed light on how Germany-Singapore collaborations have helped leading firms across both countries navigate supply chain issues, what it takes to diversify manufacturing and supply chain activities in Southeast Asia, and how to tap the region's logistics infrastructure and connectivity to enhance supply chain efficiencies. Our moderator for this panel is Mr. Julian Fischer, partner at McKinsey & Company. Joining us on the panel today are Ms. Phyllis Ong, Group Chief Executive Officer of Armstrong Group, Ms. Xiao Hui, Head of Cargo Solutions Business Southeast Asia of PSA Corporation Limited, and Mr. Stefan Erhardt, Chief Financial Officer of Lidl Asia Private Limited. After the panel discussion, we will open the floor for questions and answers. Please feel free to post your questions in the Q&A chat box on the right-hand side of your web browser. Our panelists will address your questions during the Q&A segment. Julian, over to you.
Thank you so much. Supply chain really is everywhere at the moment, as we already heard in the previous sessions. And don't get me wrong, I'm a supply chain person. So I love that C-level executives around the globe talk about supply chain resilience. But at the same time, I also have very big respect for the tasks that lay ahead of us. As we heard, there are many factors that are disrupting our global supply chains at the moment. There's inflation, semicon shortages, the Ukraine crisis in Europe at the moment, logistics disruptions, COVID, and many, many more. So in this very complex environment, it's my special pleasure today to welcome the panelists to our discussion and to learn from their insights on how they managed to build resilient supply chains. Stefan, you have successfully built a hub in Singapore with Lidl. Can you tell us more about your journey? How has it helped to improve your sourcing operations?
Sure. Yeah, maybe for the audience, I would like to put Lidl a little bit in the context first and then explain what took place over the last few years. Lidl Asia, as part of the Schwarz Group, which is an agile, fast, and very much opportunity-driven organization, but also on the other side, trying to build up a sustainable organization and setup with the idea also to, again, adapt whenever it's possible to the local requirements and the global changes. Therefore, we had to rethink about our approach in Asia a few years ago. And like all the colleagues who talked earlier, the geopolitical developments in Asia over the last years, and not only in Asia, actually all over the world, our own further growth plan as a company, as an organization, and the idea to diversify the risk in terms of our manufacturing footprint in Asia were the key drivers for us to build up our HQ for Asia in Singapore. Why is Singapore, or was Singapore, the best choice for us to build up our hub here in Asia? Because, also like mentioned before, the extensive network of free trade areas, like mentioned before. And for us as a company, we already take that opportunities in this region, and we want to be a key partner in that region also for the future. So we started actually mid of 2018 from scratch, building up our organization here in Singapore. And since then, we started to grow and to collaborate with the related Singaporean government agency. And also important for us as an organization was from day one to really focus on local hires and working together also with the local various institutes to build up a higher education for our industry so that we are able to grow here in Singapore and in the region in the future, and also giving the opportunity to have a career with Lidl in Asia. And since then, mainly actually 2020 and 21, we started then to shift key strategic functions to Singapore, and now also since more than a year, some operational divisions. And the good thing is now that we actually see already the positive development of the change of our footprint in Southeast Asia and also South Asia. However, also to be clear, there are still plenty of potentials and opportunities we still need to identify, to address, to develop, and actually also to translate it actually at the end into business. But that's the situation where we are right now.
Fantastic. And from my experience, you already mentioned talent as one of the key steps. How do we find the right talent and what can that look like? In addition, of course, suppliers are also key. How does Lidl manage to find the right suppliers and build really sustainable relationships in Asia?
Yeah, interesting question. Let's maybe focus first on finding the right suppliers. And in that term, for us, identifying the right suppliers, we decided also more or less a year ago to start to build up or to take the foundation of advanced analytics as a key factor for us to find the right suppliers in the future. And we are planning to establish a dedicated team in Singapore, which help us and already started to help us to map the manufacturing market and bring us actually further transparency into the whole supply chain, promote actually also the vertical integration, innovation and sustainability in our supply chain. So that's the key driver for us, number one. Number two, as an additional to this, we believe we have to build up a strong relationship. That means in the first place, we need to build up a network and being part of a network so that we actually see which kind of developments taking place. We as Lidl Asia have an onboarding process today for suppliers so that they get from us a strategic overview of our business and a holistic supplier management process so that we in a frequent way share information about us as a company, align our positions with the suppliers, and also clearly communicate our future requirements. So that's one part. The other part is for us that how do we make sure that this relationship stays sustainable? For us, again, transparency is key here, and communication is also key. But previously, we didn't have a big footprint in the different regions around Southeast Asia and South Asia, and therefore we are trying now to connect closer with our suppliers than we have done previously. So our claim is in a way being there where our suppliers are. So we will create a further footprint in the different regions, in the different strategic markets for us, so that we are closer to our suppliers, that we understand the cultural implications in that regions, that we also able to grow our business together with these partners in that regions. So that means for us, we are really planning to create additional footprints in the different regions in Asia. Did it answer your question or any further questions in that regard?
Very much so, and I think it's also a perfect connection to our friends from Armstrong Group, Phyllis. I think for us, right, as we just heard, relationships are key, footprint is key, and we have to collaborate basically together. And if I think of Armstrong, I think you really stand for fantastic manufacturing collaborations with German companies. Can you tell us a bit more about your journey, Phyllis?
Yeah. Hi, Julian. Thank you.
Here you are.
So Armstrong started our journey in 1974, and we have 17 factories across 7 countries in Asia. So what we do is basically precision engineering products, and well, half of our business is in automotive. That's why a very close link to the German OEMs. And in the past, we were mostly focusing on 2 growth strategy, and I think how this relates to the collaboration with the German side. I think number one, we always focus on high quality international and regional customers with footprint in Asia. And we take careful steps to balance the geographical expansion and the risk. And the second part is, of course, partnership. I think one huge part, especially for SMEs like ourselves, is that partnerships reduce the geographical risk, time and resources, and speed up probability of success. So back in the 80s and 90s, the Volkswagen Group was already a leader in China. And in the late 90s, actually they were asking their German component suppliers in Germany to start to support with a footprint in China back then already. So in 1998, one of the German component supplier, the company's name is called Odenwald Chemie. So they came actually to Asia. Originally, they wanted to look for Malaysia because there's Proton Automotive there, but they had to transit because of the flight. They had to transit Singapore, so they met up with our chairman, right, and who then met him. And I think the chemistry was very good, right? I think there's a German word, but how our German partner, Mr. Augler, would describe to us is that I trust this man with my wallet. So apparently there's a German saying in this. So I think basically the trust was very, very high and the relationship was very easy to build. In fact, if you ask me, when I look back at the very old documents back in 1998, right, actually the legal document was very light. It's very different from today's kind of legal protection and all that. It was very highly built on trust that we have a lot to share to work on this global footprint, and that both leaders of the company believe that you're going to be in for a long term. So I think that was actually a very important part of our journey, where both parties didn't depend only on legal document, but really kind of heart to heart, man to man, right? They met and they said, okay, I think the business makes sense and we're going to be in this for a long term. So it was really a handshake, right, that sealed the deal, right? And I think actually the early journey from 1998 to 2004 actually was a slow start. Our first customer was Audi under the Volkswagen Group. It was actually a slow start. But 2004 to 2016 in China, we have 6 other factories within that 12 years. And in 2012, we had another partnership with another German company, which is doing another product for automotive. And I'll say that sharing a lot of these friendship and work relationship with the Germans was really very enjoyable. And until today, we are still very, very good friends. And I think, again, the critical success factor was that the leaders start off talking very direct. And I think that's something that Singaporeans also tend to be more that style, where we are quite direct in how we talk. And we had a lot of technical capabilities that we could learn from the Germans. And the German side also feel that the market is in China. They also do not want to lose their OEM's support and trust, and yet they do not want to take high geographical risk. So having a trusted partner from Singapore that they know it sounds very safe and the owners are reliable, I think that was really very good. And in fact, like just back in 2019, because we work very closely with a few of these German partners, right, where we had from joint venture to technical partnership to just really sharing, it also allowed us with the account in BMW to also supply to our Vietnam customer, which is VinFast, because they have an arrangement with BMW. So sometimes the business is not just for the German OEMs, it's also that that relationship brought us business with other Southeast Asian partner. So overall, I think we share a lot with our partners on the market, customers, projects, suppliers, and also enjoy a lot of Weizen beer together. So I think that is very, very valuable as our journey. And with this exciting journey, actually the last decade, the automotive growth in China is so much that now 50% of our group business is in automotive already. And so for Armstrong, our next journey is to pivot to look for new German partners to grow our next pillar in the healthcare and medical industry. Yeah, so it's been a very good journey with our German friends, that's for sure.
Very good. And I also used to work for BMW. I live in Munich, so automotive is very close to my heart as well. So I'm happy to see and hear that you already do a lot of work with the friends basically over in Singapore. And you mentioned one thing, which is geographical risk at the moment. And if you think of your partners that you work with, of your customers that you work with, do you see differences in how they deal with that geographic risk? And has also anything changed now over the last years? Do they approach it differently as well?
So, okay, so of course it depends a lot on the nature of the business and the market and also the scalability. So for, let's say, example, our German automotive customers, because China is still the largest market for them, so their expectation, I think, didn't drop despite, all the difficulties. They expect that we are able to continue our strong footprint within China while perhaps having supply chain support outside of China in order to ensure there's no line down. Because sometimes some of the materials may be outside of China. So they want to have more business continuity planning from us. So I think in terms of tightening the requirement on supply chain, those where China is the large market for them, they are still very, very careful. On the other hand, those which are more global, right? Example, like Bosch, their power tools, etc. Those with more global markets, they tend to want to maybe invest more in Southeast Asia because the cost of labor has also been, in China, has been growing very, very high. So in this case, with all these geographical risk, they tend to shift more towards, example, Malaysia, in Vietnam, etc. That's for our customers. And we find that they also value footprint, for companies, they value footprint throughout Southeast Asia. So I also encourage that more of us can have more footprint throughout Southeast Asia because it will complement the business in China and vice versa. So I think right now customers are no longer comfortable with, I'll say, just China alone or even just Southeast Asia alone. I think it has to go wider than that. And the point about partnership then become very, very critical. Because if not, you will grow very slowly without partnership or M&A.
Right. Well, thank you, Philip. And I think for me, also thinking of geographical risk, another big dimension in there, of course, is logistics itself. And I think many of us today suffer from logistics capacity reductions.
Yes.
That we see these big queues in front of ports. People complain about container prices, availability, all of that. And I think, so you're basically an expert on our panel here for all the logistics disruptions globally. Can you help us a bit on your experience that you have with PSA? How does the situation look like at the moment in Singapore when it comes to logistics?
Okay, thanks, Julian, for the questions. I think indeed, the current state of global supply chain is really, really fragile with multiple challenges, not just from COVID-related disruptions, but growing geopolitical tensions, maritime incidents. Just now, Wei Chen has shown, the Suez Canal blockage, escalating energy prices, labor-related issues, or even adverse weather such as typhoon and flood. So Singapore being the world's largest transshipment hub, handling 1/7 of the world's transshipment volume and situated at the midpoint of the East-West trade, has often been affected by delays both at the upstream and downstream ports. So vessel schedule integrity has fallen drastically to about 30%, and dwell state of containers at the ports has increased by more than 50%. So despite all these challenges, I'm quite glad to share that since the onset of the COVID pandemic, the Port of Singapore has demonstrated 24/7. This has allowed shipping lines to leverage Singapore's connectivity, capabilities, and innovative solutions to untangle network complications, which require scale and efficiency offered by the Singapore hub. So apart from cargoes, Singapore also offers a suite of other complementary services such as bunkering, crew change, and even seafarer vaccination. So in short, Singapore continues to be the catch-up port and a one-stop port solution for many of the shipping lines. We are quite grateful that these efforts by Singapore have been recognized by the industry. So the Port of Singapore was named Best Global Seaport at the 2021 Asia Freight Logistics and Supply Chain Awards. Of course, I think the success is really not attributed to PSA alone. A few factors have made this possible. So firstly, our very strong tripartite partnership involving the government, the unions, and PSA. So we work very closely together with one common objective, and that is to protect lives as a priority and protect livelihood. So we took steps to protect the health of all our workers and instituted a safe and contactless operation so that we can keep the port running without disruptions. Secondly, PSA has also taken steps to ramp up our capacity through the activation of more container berths, storage yard equipment, and manpower, thereby enabling us to help shipping lines with catch-up services to recover lost time and mitigate delays incurred at other ports. We have also fast-tracked our new capacity at the Tuas Megaport, with phase 1 operation commencing since last quarter of last year. So thirdly, I think by leveraging automation and digitalization has helped us to reduce our reliance on manpower and ensuring non-stop operations even at a time when Singapore experienced a surge in a number of community cases. I think with the reopening of Singapore economy, we are confident that Singapore and PSA will continue to play a crucial role in the facilitation of global trade and cargo flow.
Fantastic. We already heard from Stefan before that advanced analytics was a theme that Lidl now applies. Can you tell us a bit more for PSA? How do you use digitization and automation? What does that look like to enable your basically customer supply chains to become more resilient going through the Port of Singapore?
So I believe many of you who are present today will agree with me that supply chain vulnerabilities and resilience are most effectively addressed not by targeting individual pinpoints, but through wider and more systemic solutions such as digitalization and tech solutions to drive changes in the way how supply chain is going to be orchestrated. I think PSA is really a firm believer of digital and tech solutions to enhance supply chain resilience. So we started very early in pushing the frontier in digitalization and automation of our port operations. And to allow the rest of the supply chain community to also benefit from the port's digital connectivity, PSA has actually formulated a blueprint of digital solutions comprising of 3 layers. So the first layer is the terminal operating system, which enables PSA to manage our day-to-day operations, and in so doing, allow us to capture real-time data of key operational milestones. The second layer is the port community system, which allows PSA to interact with community outside the port, including the government agencies, the shipping liners, truckers, and other port users at large. The third layer is our global supply chain platform, we name it Callista, that enables seamless interoperability and data exchanges across the entire ecosystem. So today, we see a lot of supply chain disruptions happening everywhere. Many cargo owners, just now, I think somebody mentioned about subscribing to control tower solutions for enhanced visibility. I think this can only be achieved via a very well-connected digital ecosystem. So the beauty of control tower solution is that it can integrate data from multiple sources into a holistic view and provides a single source of truth for all shipments from origin to destination. So users, which in this case, cargo owners or their appointed service provider, can also configure alerts for key milestones that they want to monitor. So this would actually allow better insights to the cargo flow and empower cargo owners to have better control, to intervene and replan or reroute their shipment proactively whenever necessary before the problem arises.
Fantastic. So it's all about really becoming proactive instead of reactive, creating more transparency, using the data at hand. That's fantastic. Thank you, Sylvie. And I always love your background, by the way. I can really imagine the containers moving back and forward there in the background in the port. And coming back, Stefan, to Lidl and your journey, What are your key insights that you had so far on trade and logistics infrastructure in Singapore?
I mean, I'm in Singapore personally since March last year, and we as an organization since 2018. And I mean, what my experience are so far is Singapore has a world-class infrastructure and a connectivity that enables companies like us during the COVID period and at time still to succeed and to manage all the uncertainties that came along. And in this regard, I believe the Singapore government was always kind of a differentiator for us, because we got that feeling and impression always that the government here and the government bodies always try to think forward, to give us as companies alternatives still in these difficult times to manage these situations. And therefore, we saw, for example, that here it has been taking significant investments in infrastructure. Talked about the seaport, but also about the airport, and they build up capacity, and they always try to manage the situation even in the lockdown period, that operational companies, logistics still was continue to work. And we see the implications that took place and still take place in China or in other regions. So you really see that the Singapore hub worked here, let's say, in a positive way, straightforward for us as a company who are located here, clearly. And that's,
Fantastic.
again, I believe a difference just because the government and the agencies together try to think like companies and try to find solutions.
Right. But I think there's even one question that we already got from the audience that links very well to what you just said. And I think in addition to, of course, the logistics infrastructure, one part about Singapore that is very special is the financial ecosystem. So there's a question from the audience around what role does the vibrant Singapore financial ecosystem play in supporting Lidl's supply chain activities?
No role at all, to be honest, because we are different structured in that regard. So we are not using in particular the financial infrastructure and ecosystem. We are also here close working with the local international banks and the financial system together, but that wasn't a focus for us previously to build up our hub here in Singapore. We work together with the local banks, but and the financial system, but not as a key driver.
Interesting. I mean, and you as CFO, of course, have to know that part best, I was thinking. So it's a good question to ask, definitely. Then coming over, Phyllis, there's also a question from the audience around the strength of Singapore manufacturers and manufacturers in Southeast Asia. Because, of course, in some cases, manufacturing costs could be higher than in other regional counterparts. How do you see that, basically? What are the benefits of Singapore manufacturers in that mix?
Yeah, I think just now Stefan has also mentioned this as a very key point, which is, I think within Singapore, it is really outstanding that the Singapore government is extremely forward-thinking. And there are many aspects, whether it's the infrastructure or how things are being worked out and well understood. It's, I think the cost is something that we have to work around, because we are getting a very developed city, and the quality of education and all that is definitely at a different level. I think especially during disruptions such as during COVID, and you see how different governments across Asia handle. It's very clear how our government has really helped the entire economy in a very balanced way. So I think that one has earned the full respect of not just Singaporeans, but also partners across the world. Generally, in terms of, let's say, in terms of exploring Singapore as a manufacturing hub, for Armstrong, what we are doing is we are being encouraged also to look at higher value add. because over here, it's if you want to manufacture here, you have to go for higher value add. But I think that is something that you have to do it wherever you are. So over time, the lower to us, what we do is that the lower value add production actually shifts overseas, but more of the IP development, more of the higher technology, more of the premium products and innovation are generally within Singapore. And with that, we actually work and extend the know-how to our Southeast Asian partners. So our global customers actually value that because overall they are able to balance costs. They are able to balance, because at the end of the day, the customers are the one that's paying for the final cost. So by us being able to leverage on the strength of Singapore and the infrastructure that we are able to have, and then some of the manufacturing that can be done in Southeast Asia, the overall cost becomes a very attractive proposition for our global customers.
Very clear. Very clear at that.
Maybe can I add here something as Lidl? I mean, we are sourcing, let's say, also quite low price items and products around Asia and with high quality. So for us, it's also always a question about price competitiveness. And also maybe one small key learning from my side was that we actually, as an organization, before we were present in Singapore, we were not really clear about the whole portfolio of, let's say, Singapore-owned contract manufacturers are actually available, and what also kind of key supply chain players are also present here. And I believe that footprint will develop over the upcoming years and developed also. And also here, I just can say the government agencies also have to introduce us to these manufacturers. And here it's always on us together with these manufacturers, with a partnership to develop cases and products. They are competitive at the end to different markets. And again, it's also part of diversification of the risk. We always have to balance this together out. And that's a process where I believe all partners have to put more efforts still on. And but that needs to continue.
Right. Excellent point, Stefan. Xiaoyi, there's also some questions for PSA coming in from our participants, and also for all others, please keep the questions coming, of course. We'll try to cover as many as we can in the time that we have available with us right now. And one question that we have, which I think is a very interesting one as well, is what differentiates Singapore as a regional distribution hub to other hubs in the Southeast Asia region? So probably a question you get a lot, and I'm sure you have a good answer for. So what makes Singapore as a hub special?
I think Singapore hub is special because of our very superior connectivity. All right. I think not only on the ocean side of the connectivity, I think also on the air side of the connectivity. So Singapore is actually the hub for all the three mega alliances, okay, comprising of the 2M, the Ocean Alliance, as well as the Alliance. So all three alliances actually hub in Singapore, and you can't really find a port where you can actually see the hubbing of all three alliances. And what this really translate into will be cost saving for cargo owners. With so much choices and so on and so forth, right? They can actually choose the most suitable shipping line that give them the best service. So just now we talk about the cost of doing business in Singapore, right? Okay, we actually need to look at the total value creation offered by the Singapore hub instead of just itemized by individual cost item. So what we have also experienced over in PSA is that a lot of cargo owners actually leverage this superior connectivity of Singapore to use Singapore as a forward hub and gateway to the rest of the region. So what I mean by forward hub is basically a virtual warehouse concept where cargoes from source are actually staged at Singapore and then leverage on Singapore very wide options of carrier choices, frequent sailing, and multiple connection, to achieve faster lead time to market. So in Singapore, we also provide, value-added services such as relabeling, transloading, pre-sales inspection. This will actually enable cargo owners, to achieve greater agility and resilience in response to any changes in market condition or disruptions. Okay. Apart from the seaport, I think we also have very strong partnership with the air side. And what this means is that if there is a need for intermodal solution, sea air or air sea solution, PSA and the airside partners, Changi Airport Group, SETS, Dinata, SQ Cargo, we have actually co-created a seamless intermodal sea air air sea solution for e-commerce cargo, high value electronic, perishable, pharmaceutical, all sort of cargo passing via Singapore.
Thank you.
And I think maybe, just to add on to the last point, I think Singapore is also, we have a lot of FTA, and we also believe in building a strategic trade corridor with our partners. Okay, so one of these strategic trade corridor that we have built is with regards to the International Land Sea Trade Corridor, or in short, we call it the ILSTC, which connects our coastal port in southwestern China in Qingzhou, okay, to the inner provinces in western China, such as Chongqing, Chengdu, Xi'an, by rail transportation. So the ILSTC actually provides an alternative to shipment to Shanghai and Yangtze River barging into Chongqing, which can get very congested, especially during the peak season. ILSTC actually reduces transit time by about 50%, as it's actually a more carbon-friendly mode of transportation with greater cost certainty and service reliability. So I think it's the whole ecosystem that works together to differentiate Singapore, from the rest of the regional so-called ports.
Fantastic, and I'm especially happy that you connected Chongqing as well, because I used to live there when I was younger. So I can really recommend. It's a fantastic place if you like spicy food. And a very, I think, also very Chinese part of China. I can always recommend also checking out Chongqing. And there's one direct follow-up question, Xiaowei, also on PSA. And how can PSA also support companies' logistics in Europe? Or do you do Singapore alone?
No. So today, PSA footprint is really, beyond Singapore. Okay, we started in Singapore. Our genesis, started in Singapore. But since 1997, we have actually ventured overseas. We have a footprint in 26 countries, and we have 60 coastal rail inland terminal projects, all over, Asia, Europe, America, Middle East, India. And of course, our global footprint has been strengthened with our recent acquisition of a BDP International, which is actually an international US-based forwarding company. They have 130 offices worldwide. So we do have strong presence in Europe. Apart from Singapore, which is our flagship, Antwerp is also another flagship terminal of PSA.
Fantastic. And Stefan, one German word that soon everybody will know is Lieferkettengesetz. How does the Lieferkettengesetz and what's behind it basically affect Lidl? How do you think about it at the moment?
I mean, the Lieferkettengesetz or the supply chain law, whatever you want to use, is relevant for the entire supply chain industry. And also with that for Lidl Asia, no doubt. And to be clear, we as Lidl Asia have already a dedicated team that supports us by ensuring that we have a compliant supply chain and having the transparency in our supply chain with all the tiers. They are part of our supply chain. I mentioned, I believe, earlier that compliance, sustainability, transparency are key elements for us for the future development. And now we only have to find a way how we combine the new regulatory requirements with our operational needs in a way that it fits in the best way together. We believe here again, that only works with our partners, in the whole supply chain. And yeah, we are working on that topic, like I believe a lot of companies do right now, to stay compliant with the Lieferkettengesetz in the future. For us, mainly 2023 starting.
Fantastic. And then linked, I think, to the Lieferkettengesetz, there's also one question from the audience around the trade agreements in basically for Singapore. Has that also helped the various trade agreements like RCEP and others around when it comes to Lidl's operations? Has that made things easier?
Yeah, I mean, also clear for us, the FTA between the European Union and Singapore, which was put in place, I believe, 2019, is helping us, and it's actually also a blueprint, like mentioned before, for all the other ASEAN regions and countries right now and states, and therefore it's helping us already, and we are participating from that FTAs already. For example, also now something we contribute already is in Vietnam. So yes, 100% clear these FTA agreements and also the new developments or further discussions in the regions now with the European Union actually are things we are looking forward to see that this will help us to, again, diverse the risk around Asia, China, Southeast Asia, and so on, to be more flexible in our whole supply chain, 100%.
Great to hear. And I think with that, we then come to the end of our panel. I personally could talk about supply chain resilience probably the most of the day, but knowing that we still have many interesting agenda points coming towards us. Phyllis, Xiaowei, Stefan, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your experience on what it takes to build supply chain resilience in Singapore.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julian and panelists, for sharing your insights with us. I believe everyone has benefited very much from your sharing. Before we close the program proper, in the spirit of discovering pathways and partnerships, I would like to encourage all of you to use the business matching function via the Meetings tab found on the left-hand side of your web browser. Do also visit the virtual showcase under the Exhibitor tab if you have not yet had the chance to do so. And please do drop us an email at gsbfconnect@enterprisesg.gov.sg if you wish to follow up on any of the discussions today. Thank you very much for joining us today for the Germany-Singapore Business Forum Connect, Pathways and Partnerships for Supply Chain Resilience. See you at the next GSBF Connect event. And to our German friends, auf Wiedersehen, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.